so you made a signing, Nouhou. What about his play made sure you wanted to keep him around?
Well, obviously he's categorically the best 1v1 defender in MLS. So, that skill set alone makes him ultra valuable. I think he's done well for the organization for years, and it's a good opportunity to re-sign him and put him under contract in a world where he is garnering a lot of attention domestically and internationally.
With that attention, were there any discussions about his future within that kind of contract?
Yeah, he signed a contract. That's his future.
No,
I'm joking. I mean, we have really open conversations with our players, and his aspirations and the club's aspirations for him align. If he spends every day for the rest of his career in Seattle, that's fantastic. But at the same time, if the right club comes calling and it matches up both for Nouhou's aspirations as well as the Sounders, then we'll have another conversation in the future. But the contract represents the work he's done for the club. It rewards him for that. It also gives him the security of knowing that, there's no move that has to happen. This is a great place for him to continue his career, and we'll see if something comes up.
When you think about, he coming in as a Sounders 2 player and probably the minimal inversion that was first put into him, I mean, what does that say about the team and finding someone like him?
Well, it means the people before me did a heck of a job. I'm standing here talking about a contract that I rewarded a player that's been here forever on. So, it's all credit to the people that brought him in and developed him, and the coaching staff as well, and to Nouhou. He took a big chance at a really young age to come over here. He's still growing as a man, and he and I have had several conversations about growth as a player, growth as a man, and how that matches up professionally. And so I think all of those things considered over the last several years really add up to it's an easy decision. It was an easy decision for us, and I'm sure he'll say the same thing. It was an easy decision for him.
Great. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm gonna.
I was droning on.
No, I'm gonna jump into growth and you as well. How important is it for you now, like you just said, players that have been here, you come in and then reward those players as you kind of take this organization where it needs to go?
Yeah, well, I say a lot of cliches, just like all general managers.
Right.
But the truth is, when I make offers to players, it doesn't come without a very personal conversation of expectations, and rarely are those conversations limited to soccer. Most of my expectations have to do with the organization, have to do with their personal growth, have to do with their personal life. Soccer, if we as an organization are offering a player a new contract, it's because they've done things well on the field. That part's the obvious part. So asking for all of these other parts of growth and maturity are something that are really, really of highly fine focus for me in those conversations.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Like, are you talking about like brand ambassador type of thing, or?
No. I mean, look, every human, we all mature at different times, and in a professional career, there's so much energy and so much attention that these guys garner, and how do you handle it, and how do you digest it, and then how do you represent that? Both on the field and off the field, and the physical attributes that a player has, can those be enhanced? And so we're talking growth in the weight room. We're talking growth with our nutritionist, growth with our psychologist, we're talking growth holistically across a player, not just as an athlete. And those are parts that I'm tasked with overseeing, and parts that I'm tasked with challenging these guys to do a bit more of. And Nouhou has set the table for himself to take another huge leap as a man and as a professional, and how he shows up every day and how he treats it. And I think that a lot of attention was garnered during the World Cup. He's still garnering a lot of attention worldwide, and I don't anticipate that having a new contract, that's not going to stop attention from around the world. Now it's up to him and how he goes about the maturity at Seattle in his performances here as a professional, both in our locker room, on the field, outside our locker room. When and if that next opportunity comes, those will all be factors as to whether or not we as an organization entertain him.
Some more spicy chicken.
More
Teriyaki.
More teriyaki.
You were once a player. How important is it from a player's perspective to know that the organization is looking at you holistically You know what I mean? Like you just said, not just to score goals, but so that way when that next contract comes up and there's an even amount, no, this is home because they care about me as a person.
Look, it's important to some. It's not important to all players. It's not important to all of us as humans, but with Nouhou specifically, my relationship with him and establishing that in my new role is to challenge him to have more open conversation. You know, he comes from a really tough place where you fight for everything. And a new contract is a reward of that representation of that battle he's been through to develop on and off the field here. It doesn't necessarily register the way culturally we might think of it growing up in America, or the way someone from Europe might think of it, or South America. All of these upbringings and cultural movements and cultural emotion and understanding come into this relationship. And so what does the contract represent to him? I mean, I'll be watching your guys' video later and listening to his answers as well.
Is there something about, though, you kind of went around it, is there something about an organization wanting to be a player destination?
Yeah, look, we want players that want to be here and want this to feel like family and want this to feel like home. We don't want players that want to come here and use our club and use our brand for a year and a half and then leave. We are a mature organization in the fact that we understand this might not be the end destination for every player, but we want players that want to be here and want to be a part of what we're doing. We want them to want to interact with our community, not just our club. This isn't about showing up on this field for 2 hours a day. It's about showing up every day in Seattle and being a part of it.
How do you think Nouhou's extension symbolizes a win for the club's player development system?
Well, yeah, I mean, player development's huge on any club anywhere in the world, and when you get to reward a player that's been here, it's kind of nice. Like I said, I get to stand in front of a microphone and take a lot of credit for a lot of other people's work today, but at the same time, it's a wonderful step for the organization to be able to reward a player that came at a really young age and has done a really, really nice job in development all the way to the international stage.
Do you have specific goals for player development and through the academy, through Defiance this year?
Yes.
What are those goals?
Oh, sorry. We are in a world in MLS where every time you can develop a player, the way our salary cap works, the way the dominoes fall in terms of retaining players and how they're paid and how that impacts the cap and how that impacts the next position and investment, that every time you can develop a player that plays and contributes, whether it's 10 minutes, 18 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it is a huge impact. And if you look across our league, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. It doesn't have to be 11 homegrown players starting. It can be 2 or 3, but those 2 or 3 at a time have such a drastic impact on the dominoes that fall in the salary cap and the development of our team that the idea is every year we develop 2 more players to contribute more than they did last year. And we're already seeing this year with a couple of our young guys that are already playing and appearing consistently through 3 games.
So it sounds like the number would be 2. You would like to see, say, 2 academy players earn themselves to come to Defiance or higher contracts.
I mean, that'd be a nice number.
Yeah.
If every year we have 2 more stepping into the pros, and some years that'll be 4, and some years it'll be 1. But if we average 2 players a year that are coming in and continuing their development at a high level, I think that's a good representation of what we need in terms of sustainability year over year, and in terms of, look, like, we want our fans to know our players for years, and what better way than having them grow up here.
You sort of mentioned the cap implications of that part of it. What kind of cap implications does Nouhou's extension have? I mean, is it like dramatically reduce how much space you guys have now?
No. I mean, it's an interesting word.
Question.
I could say yes or no. Anytime you re-sign a player, and in our world of salary cap execution, it has a drastic impact. But in terms of talking about any one specific contract, you know, they all add up. And in my world, Nouhou deserved a new contract. So it doesn't dramatically impact anything other than our planning, as opposed to, you know, year over year planning. But this is a player that deserved a new contract and received a new contract and signed a new contract, which are three very different topics in that process. But once it's signed, it's fantastic, and we can plan year over year now pretty easily.
With that in mind, what's the contingency plan for a player that is got as much recognition and interest in a position that you're very lacking depth in?
Oh, we've got 8 or
left
9 left backs, don't we? Look, that's one of the topics in MLS is when you're dealing with the salary cap, how do you go too deep at every position, or 3 or 4 or 5? It's nearly impossible. So you're always going to have players on your roster that can play multiple positions, that can, quote, fill in, that are good reserve players in different parts. It's a very, very difficult task and chore in MLS to build a team that's, quote, too deep in every single position. So in terms of building depth, I mean, left-sided players, if you look around the world, they're unicorns. So we will collect left-sided players as long as I'm in this chair. If there's good left-sided players available and affordable, we'll keep signing them until we can't, because there's just not a ton of them.
Is there someone in the works right now then?
Always, Jada.
Yeah.
Always.
Any,
Always in the works.
any tips?
No tips. I mean, we're always scouting, especially, like I said, left-sided is something that everyone in the world is scouting. So as soon as we're chasing them, there's 20 other teams chasing them as well. It's whether or not we can get to them first. But look, we're pretty darn good on the left right now. So we like our team. And with Jordan and Nouhou getting new contracts, it solidifies the left side for quite a while.
With the announcement of the Club World Cup going to 32
Yeah.
teams in the for every 4 years, how does that maybe factor into what you do roster-wise, especially with Leagues Cup? I mean, like, it seems like there's a few more tournaments on the schedule, so does that factor into planning?
I mean, it factors into the way we sell a player on coming here. But in terms of building the roster, we've got some business to take care of before that next Club World Cup. We're really excited about it, but we've got a few trophies to chase before that we're going to build for the immediate.
Well, I actually mean, like, as far as trying to plan depth to make it through
Oh.
that kind of a schedule.
I mean, again, the challenge in MLS is depth. The challenge in building your roster is going back to developing players in our own system is, sometimes you've got to develop the players here. And so it's not as easy to just go out and spend more money because, frankly, the rules don't allow that. And so in terms of planning for future and planning for all of these competitions, a lot of it comes back to us and what are we doing at our youth levels and what are we doing at our Defiance level in order to prep guys to be ready for those opportunities when they come up. Because there's going to be a lot of games to play over the next 3 years in very condensed amount of times.
Why is left back so? I mean, soccer 101. Left back because of the right-footed player. Why is it so coveted?
Well,
Carlos is
left-footed left backs.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to find a left-footed player. Second of all, you have to find one that doesn't want to be in the attacking half of the field and chase the glory. So it's a pretty coveted position just because of the limitations on. You think of the characteristics and the development, and coaches. If you have a left-footed player at younger ages, you're typically, as a coach, tactically going to put them in your midfield or up farther because they can serve a ball on left-footed, right? And so I think it's a skill set that isn't widely developed just based on the fact there's not a ton of young left-footed players that are dying to play defense.
And it looks like you said, the challenge now, given where soccer is going with the backs going up, is the challenge to say, I got it, but I need you to stay defensively some sort?
I mean, you're asking a stay-at-home right back. Like, my entire career, I considered the half line as like a laser that would burn my legs if I ran across it. So, I mean, I want to get back to those days, just 4 guys standing across the half line, happy to be defenders.
That was 1960.
Yeah, I know. It was a long time ago, and the game was way more boring. But, no, I mean, it evolves, and the game is secular. Everyone talks about, in the 90s, was it block 4-4-2, and then it was 3-5-2, and then 4-3-3, and we're going to go through all these cycles again because as teams build, you've got to combat, and it's not always dominant. It's not always like we can, especially in a world with a salary cap, we're going to see evolution. This year we're seeing quite a few teams attack in different formations
Yeah.
than they're defending already. In the first 3 weeks of the season, we're seeing a lot of it.
What can you share about Nico or Steph or JP as far as their contracts or their future here?
I can share as much as I can share. Nico is no secret. He's in the last year of his contract, and there's conversations, but at the same time, we've got some business to take care of before we make decisions on Nico or JP or Albert or any of these players with contracts. We've got a lot to prove this year, and the proof's in the pudding. I mean, sports is pretty straightforward. If we win, there's a lot more happy people than if we lose, and that includes me.
So you're saying that Nouhou deserved a new contract, but they are playing for a contract still, as far as those.
I mean,
Is
you
that
guys,
the difference?
you
I
guys
just
can you guys can word it however you want to word it. The way I word it is, we've got jobs to do, and if we do them well, things work out.